welcome back to my channel. My name's Jamie. In today's video, we're doing a recap of the October Shop My Stash and sharing with you the products in my November Shop My Stash. I will try to remember to put a timestamp below if you're not interested in the recap, but let's jump right through the products that I picked out in October. So in October, I chose two different eyeshadow palettes. The first one was the California Love palette by ColourPop, and I got some pretty decent use out of it. You can kind of see that some of the shades are already a little bit dirty. I like this palette. I mentioned before, Diego is like my favorite shimmer in this palette. It's so beautiful. And overall, I just get like a really easy, warm toned, effortless eye. I'm starting to kind of phase out of warm tones a little bit, so this wasn't my most used palette, but I feel like when it comes to ColourPop, their consistency is always there. So whether this isn't the palette you choose and you choose something else, I've never really had an issue with their shadows. The other palette that I picked out is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Norvina palette, and I got so much use out of this that I even hit pan on 3 different shades. The shade Incense, the shade Dreamer, and the shade Wild Child all have pans in them, and they didn't prior to this month, so you can tell how much use I've gotten out of this. I find that with the ColourPop one, like the same thing, this is a really easy palette to do and make looks with. Typically, I put Incense in the crease, and then I put Dreamer or Summer on the lid. Sometimes I do something like Wild Child or Rose Gold, and I'd even put Love in the crease, and then I'd use these 2 darker shades, Volatile and Passion, which are the 2 darker mattes. And I found it was really easy, and prior to October, I wasn't really showing this palette as much love as I could have, and I'm so glad I brought it into my rotation because I used to have this mentality where I hit pan, I'd be like, I should stop using this, like I'm gonna run out. But now when I hit pan, I'm excited to get use out of the products in my collection. So I went just a little lip product crazy in the last rotation. And I probably should have known I wouldn't have gotten rotation out of all of these because I put in 9 products. So the first one is the ColourPop Luxe Lip in the shade Uno Mas, which is a really pretty peach color. I did get use out of this, but it wasn't what I was reaching towards because I had so many choices. I don't think I even used the Ultra Glossy Lip, the So Juicy Lip in the shade Princess Cut. I have used this in the past. I just, once again, had so many products to choose from. It was a bit overwhelming. I did get a lot of use out of the 2 Dose of Color liquid lipsticks that I put in, which is the shade Stone and Bear With Me. Stone is like a muted pink and Bear With Me is a peachy nude, and I love this formula. I've talked about it before on my channel. It's long wearing, it's not super drying. It's just a really comfortable formula, and I find that when it fades off really gracefully. So these were probably my most used lip products this month. I also have talked about the Colored Rain liquid lipsticks, and I had mine in the shade Mars, which is a really pretty like mauve-y grungy tone. I will do a swatch because I don't even know how to accurately describe this color. That's what the shade Mars looks like, and I love this formula. It takes a minute or 2 to dry down, but once it dries, it doesn't go anywhere, and I've worn it through the greasiest foods like eating and drinking, and I've never had a problem with this. I didn't get much use out of the Ultra Satin Lip in the shade 0.0, which is my interesting color for the month. It's more of a like cool toned grungy color, but I was really reaching for the nudes this month, so maybe I'll bring this back in a little bit, but not next month. I did get some use out of the Ultra Blotted Lip in the shade Zuma. This is my first foray into the Ultra Blotted Lip formula, and I really liked it. It almost feels like there's nothing there. It's really weightless, it's comfortable, and I like the fact that it applies like a thin layer so you're not constantly feeling lipstick. I'd be interested in trying this in more colors. So far I really like this formula, but I only use it like a handful of times, so I'm not ready to completely review it yet. I don't think I used the Kylie Jenner Velvet Lipstick in the shade Todd Cranes, which is a really pretty peachy nude, because I was using those Dose of Color nudes instead. And then I did get some use out of the Maybelline Vivid Hot Lacquer in the shade Charmer. I talked about before, the shade that I had was Tease, which is that like really milky pink, and I thought I hated the formula because I hated that color. But this is comfortable. It's not my go-to gloss, and I've really been experimenting with glosses more recently. But it's comfortable, it's long-lasting, and it's pigmented enough to wear it on its own. The 2 foundations I included this month was the first one was the Physicians Formula Healthy Foundation in the shade LC1. I thought I'd be finished this, but I made some progress. I'm not entirely done yet, but it is getting there. I have a love-hate relationship with this foundation. It looks good, but it's not the most long-wearing. The doe foot's nice to control application, but it's also unsanitary. I like it. I do like it. I think that's my overall opinion. I'm not crazy about it, but I don't hate it. The other foundation that I had with this one is the Laura Mercier Flawless Lumiere Radiance Foundation, and I am in the shade L1C0 Cameo. This is the perfect full coverage hydrating foundation. Well, full coverage, medium to full, but I usually put it pretty full. And I'm not even someone that prefers full coverage, so for me to say I like this, that really means something. The shade might look a little bit off, but I find the frosted glass a little bit deceiving, but I like the fact this blends out really well, and for a hydrating foundation, it has great longevity. I had two different primers. I had my Becca Backlight Priming Filter and my e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. Is this the backlight? This is the First Light. I always call this the backlight, the Becca First Light Priming Filter. You can see I've gotten so much use out of this primer. It's my favorite for the cooler months because it's really hydrating. It gives like a little bit of luminosity. The purple's supposed to color correct. I really want to put this back in for my November, but I'm trying to get some more rotation out of other primers. And then the e.l.f. one, I just liked if I was going for a more minimalistic makeup day, so I could just conceal like my nose, which is where I get my most pore problem areas, and like under here. But overall, I was definitely reaching for the Becca one on like a very consistent basis. For powder, I had the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Translucent Setting Powder. I have mine in the shade 05 Fair. I'm not crazy about this powder. I find that it's extremely drying, so I don't tend to gravitate towards it because I have dry skin, especially dry under eyes. I did use it on a few occasions, but it's definitely not my favorite powder. It is in my project pan, and I'm just trying to get rid of this and get this out of here. I had two different bronzers in my Shop My Stash. I had the Tarte Amazonian Clay Bronzer in the shade Park Avenue Princess, and the e.l.f. Primer Infused Bronzer in the shade Forever Sunkissed. I think I talked about this e.l.f. one before on my channel, but I am obsessed with it. It's the perfect bronzer for me. It's buildable, it's blendable, and it's like the perfect tone for my skin, whereas the Tarte one is a little bit warm tone for me. I do like the fact the Tarte one has shimmer in it because I tend to gravitate towards a glowing blush. It's just a little bit warm that like it can be teetering on the edge of looking a little crazy. I did want to hit pan on this, but I forgot how firmly pressed this is. I will probably bring it back in a Shop My Stash in the spring or summer because I think for the rest of the winter, this might be too dark for me. The blush that I had in my rotation is the Becca Luminous Flush Blush in the shade Tiger Lily. I love this blush formula. If you like a glowy blush, you should definitely pick this up, except I think they're discontinuing it, so you could probably find it at TJ Maxx or Marshall's. But it's a really pretty like orangey blush, and it has almost gold veining through it. It just looks really healthy. I find that it's a super pigmented blush, so definitely like err on the side of caution and like less is more. But it just gives my cheeks like a glowing radiance to it. It looks really healthy and youthful. The highlighter that I brought in was also from Becca, and it's this mini in the shade Champagne Pop. I got a bunch of use out of this. This highlighter has been through the ringer. It's a little bit cracked, so I keep having to press it back in. But it's a really pretty gold tone, and I find that it's a gold that's flattering on my skin. Because I'm really fair, a lot of golds just don't work for me, but this one does. I found that I was wearing the California Love palette, which had those warmer color schemes. This was the perfect highlighter. It just looked very cohesive altogether. I put in two different eye products. I had the Stila Shimmer and Glow in the shade Kitten and the Kathleen Lights X ColourPop Zodiac Pigment in the shade The Scales. I got a lot of use out of Kitten. I found that if I was in a rush or I just didn't feel like doing a full eye look, I would put a matte on the outer corner and then just throw this on, and it was just effortless. If you haven't tried these, which you probably have because they've been around forever, there's a really easy cream shadow. I find they don't crease a lot. They don't budge once they're set. It was really easy, and this is like a really wearable look. It's a really pretty, I'd say it's almost rose silver versus rose gold, but it's just easy to pop on when you're in a rush or just want a little something extra to your eye. I did not, however, use the pigment in the Scales, and I think it's because whereas the Stila one is so easy, you can just take the doe foot applicator and run it across your eyes. The pigment requires one or two extra steps. So you have to take your brush, dump it into the pigment, and then spray it and then put it on your eye. And sometimes when I'm running late to work, I don't really have the effort to use a pigment, whereas the liquid shadow is just easier because it's less steps and less involved. I do like this pigment. It's a really pretty like pink shade with like blue reflex. It's stunning, but it's something I'm more inclined to use on the weekends than when I'm rushing to get to work and don't even have time to think of a whole eye look. But I really do like these, and I'm glad that I put it back into my stash because I have a few of the pigments on my ColourPop wish list, and I'm like, oh, I should buy this, but I have to make sure that I'm using the one that I have before I buy more. I put in 3 different concealers in my Shop My Stash, mostly because I thought I'd be done with the Catrice Liquid Camouflage Concealer. This is in the shade 007 Natural Rose, and I have like 3 uses left of this, so I am so close to being done with this, and I will definitely repurchase this because I love this concealer. I got some use out of the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind in the shade Fair, but I was mostly using the Maybelline Fit Me in the shade Ivory. This is a more hydrating concealer, so I just felt like it looked good when I was having, dry skin days or not even the best skin days. And it's the lightest of the 3 concealers, so if I wanted to highlight, this would be the one I would use. I find that I do have to set this concealer because it is hydrating, and call me crazy, but I don't set all of my concealers, so it's something to make note of. And the last products that I had were 2 eyeliners. I had the shade Whiskey from Urban Decay and the shade Loyal from Dose of Colors. The Dose of Color one's a bit more of a darker brown and it's more rich. I find that it's a stiffer formula, so it requires a little bit more effort getting into my waterline. But as far as the shade Whiskey from Urban Decay goes, I really need to sharpen this thing. I wore this at least 3 times a week. Sometimes I'd smudge it on my top lash line for a really effortless, get out the door look, but I was wearing my waterline all the time. And I mentioned in my original Shop My Stash video, I like brown eyeliners, they're softer than black eyeliners, and it just gave a really warm, complete look to this look with the California Love, which is all about these warm colors. But that wraps up all of the products that I use in October. So if you listen to the products I'm putting in my Shop My Stash this month, just keep on watching. So in no particular order, I'm putting in 2 different bronzers this month. The first one is the number 7 bronzer in the shade Golden Sands. I had this originally in my project pan, and I actually finished up an entire one of these bronzers. And because I've bought more bronzers since, this is being a little bit neglected. But do I have to tell you that I like it if I finished an entire one of this? This is the perfect bronzer. I think it's really similar in tone to the e.l.f. one. The e.l.f. one is a little bit more cool tone, but they kind of have the same tone, that really light color. And I find that this is just really blendable. It's really pretty, it's light. I can never really go too heavy on this bronzer because it's light. And I like that because sometimes we've all used a more pigmented cheek product and spent 20 minutes trying to blend it out. The second bronzer that I'm putting in is the Makeup Revolution Vivid Baked Bronzer in the shade Ready to Go. This could probably pass for a highlighter if you have deep, darker skin tone because it is completely shimmer. So if you have a deeper skin tone and you like these more rich bronze highlighters, there's a swatch of it right there. But I like to go in with a matte bronzer and just lay down the foundation and lightly dust this on top for a healthy sheen. I have the bronzers paired together today. I also went very heavy with my blush today, so you might not be able to tell. But I really do like this combination, and I find that I'm not using this Makeup Revolution one as much as I thought I would be. I have 2 different blushes. So one's a blush palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills, and this is in the shade Pool Party. So it contains 3 shades. You have the shade Blank, Pageant, and Cash. And I feel like this is perfect. It's cool tone, but you still have this more neutral one and then this pink one. This one in the shade Blank is everyday, really neutral blush. And as opposed to that Becca one that I put in, which was very colorful, I'm feeling a neutral moment. But just in case I want to switch it up, I did put in the Natasha Denona Blush and Glow. And this is what the inside looks like. So this is a much more not neutral blush. It's pretty pink. And then I also have the highlighter, which is a more subtle highlighter. So this is a really pretty palette if you have lighter skin tone. I also put in a highlighting palette, which is kind of adventurous, but I'm not getting as much use out of it. And I think that the colors are perfect for winter. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sweets Glow Kit. So you have the shade Marshmallow, Gumdrop, Starburst, and Butterscotch. I am wearing Butterscotch today because I'm wearing a more golden kind of look, and I love this. Butterscotch can be, or Marshmallow can be a little bit tricky because it's a very distinct duochrome. It's a yellow gold, a white to yellow gold, so I find that it can sometimes be tricky to pair. But Starburst is one of the best pink highlighters in my collection, and Gumdrop has a really pretty pink to gold duochrome, so even if I don't wear it as a highlighter, it can be a great last minute ready to go eyeshadow. I'm putting 2 eyeshadow palettes in my Shop My Stash, and the first one is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sultry palette. This was their holiday release of last year, and it's what I'm wearing on my eyes today. I have the shade Teak on the lid, I have the shade Twig in the crease, and the shade Dystopian on the outer corner, and then I have a different highlighter in my inner corner. It took me a minute to remember I was wearing. But I am ready for cool tones, and I'm so glad they're having a moment right now. I bought this palette because it was limited edition. I was like, everybody likes it, I'm gonna like it. But I kind of shied away for it because I was still in the warm toned phenomenon. But I'm definitely getting more into cool tones. I think they're inherently harder to work with. They can sometimes be a little bit muddy, but as I'm becoming more experienced with makeup, it's something that I'm willing to take the risk on. I have cooler undertones, so I think cool tone shadows just look good on me, and I'm excited to play with this. And the second palette that I'm incorporating in my Shop My Stash is the Misunderstood Disney Villains palette from ColourPop. I've always said this palette was kind of underrated, and I still stand by that. It has some really pretty unique colors, and I feel like the Sultry palette is gonna be more of my everyday palette, but this one can still do everyday looks too. You have these two really basic mattes, this pink shimmer, these golds and bronzes, even this pink shimmer. You have a white, you have a black with shimmer. And then if I feel like going a little bit more adventurous, you have these really pretty colors. When I first got this palette, I did a video on my channel using these two greens, and I loved that eye look, and I kind of want to recreate it. If you haven't seen that video, I'll have it linked up above or down below if you want some inspiration with this palette. The primer that I'm throwing in is from Flower Beauty. It's their hydrating, in your prime hydrating primer. Because November's here, which means December's here, which means the harsh winters are coming in, definitely hydration is a priority. And that's why I also chose the Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous Foundation as my foundation choice. I'm in the shade 130N, and once again, I want something nice and hydrating. And I'm still playing with this foundation because I find it to be really finicky. Sometimes it looks so good, and sometimes it looks so bad. I did film a video ranking on my foundations, so if you want to see where this one ranks, you can look for that up above or down below. I have a concealer that is new to my collection, and this is the Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer in the shade Snow. I picked this up in a recent Sephora Ulta haul, so once again, if you want to see the other products that I picked up above or down below. This is a little bit yellow tone for me, but I really want to get a feel for this formula, and I only got a mini guy, so I'm going to throw this in. It is full coverage, so I don't know how much use I'm going to get out of it, but I'm definitely going to try. I am throwing in a cream shadow, or a liquid shadow. This is from Essence, it's their Metal Shock eyeshadow, and this is in the shade 1 Second to Mars. It's a really pretty, like, pinky gold color. It might not necessarily go with the Sultry palette because it's a little bit more warm tone, but just tell me that isn't really pretty. I like this formula. It's a really subtle shimmer. It has a decent wear time, so I want to get some use out of this because I feel like it's starting to dry up a bit. You think I would have learned from last month not to put so many lip products in, but I have 6 products. The first one is the Huda Beauty lipstick in the shade Interview. It's one of her Power Matte Bullet lipsticks, and it's a really pretty nude color. There's a swatch of it right there, and it looks good. I just wore this formula a lot when I first went to review it, and then I kind of neglected it, so I want to bring it back out. I have 3 different liquid lipsticks. I have the shade Exposed from Kylie Jenner, which is a basic nude, the shade Pasadena from Ofra, which is a mauve, and the Sephora Cream Lip Stain in the shade number 76, which is what I have on today, which I feel like is a more like terracotta fall appropriate color. And then the last 2 products that I have are 2 lip products. I have the Morphe liquid lip gloss in the shade Freedom and the Fenty Beauty lip gloss in the shade Diamond Milk, which is becoming quickly one of my favorite products of all time. But that wraps up all the products in my November Shop My Stash. Let me know which products you're using this month. If you like this video, I hope you'll consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel. I post a new video every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'd love to have you come join me next time. But that's gonna wrap it up for today. Thanks for watching.